Good morning, everybody. I love the early shows. I'm an early riser. What do they say? The early bird gets the worm. The early bird gets the worm. Hello, Diana. Hello, Katrina. Where have you been, Katrina? I haven't seen you in a while. Glad you're back. Savvy Sav made it in. Stacy made it in. Rexy's an early riser. Rexy's also in Florida complaining about the weather. We will not hold it against her. Deborah Wallace, I have not seen you in chat in a while. Always a big treat when we can all get together. Stacy likes the early shows. Deb's coming in. There's Tiffany. Well, we might make more of a habit out of this. Normally, as you know, the show is 9 o'clock Tulsa time, Dallas time, Chicago time, Omaha time, Kansas City time, mainly Tulsa time because that's what's closest to me. But today, I'm stacked full of things to do. So can't do a 9 o'clock show and can't do an afternoon show. So we're all together early in the morning. If you look, there are new members badges. Love is in the air. And I don't mean the type of love that's going on in the Athena Brownfield case. Getting geared up for Valentine's Day. Going to be a big Valentine's members show. You don't want to miss it. I'll drop the link if you want to become a member. Always check the members tab when you can, when you think about it. Don't have to get all OCD about it. On the channel, Prissy Missy's starting the day. We're starting the day together. Kat is not in here. I don't see her chatting, but if she listens later, today is her birthday. 29 again. 29 again she is. And in this case, what we're here to talk about, the Idaho 4, that's what they call them. I mean, it is what it is, but we know who we're talking about. Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Madison. A lot of crazy stuff going on. A lot of crazy rumors, a lot of crazy things being said. It's no surprise. It's no surprise because we're not going to know anymore. For one, there's a gag order. And two, the preliminary hearing is not until June. That gives people a lot of time for their imaginations to go crazy. And go crazy they are, let me tell you. We have a lot of experts weighing in. Got to have our experts. And they're saying there's a lot of holes in this case. Now, it goes without saying, we all know that the probable cause is the tip of the iceberg. There's way more footprints. There's way more DNA. There's way, way, way more. We know that. All we have to go off of right now is what is in that probable cause. And it is interesting, I'm not going to lie, what the defense attorneys are talking about and what they're saying. This is exactly what I would do if this was my case. Garagos is one of them. Garagos is a shark. He is a shark. He has no issue. It was a slogan of his one time. Defending someone that he knows dead to nuts is guilty. He doesn't care. He does not care. He is proud when a guilty person walks out of the courthouse and they are acquitted. He's good at what he does, not going to lie. We have a little clip about that. Going to talk about in the discovery request, which I apologize for the confusion in the last show. I was not confused about what a discovery request was. I was confused about one little paragraph which mentioned a co-defendant. And as normal, the easiest explanation is normally the truth, is normally what it is. Not everything is complicated. In attorneys' offices, doctors' offices, schools, insurance offices, my office, we have documents that are used on the daily that we basically just have to plug in different names and dates. Sometimes, if you're lucky, there's an autofill with the date. Sometimes you have to manually put it in. It seems that in this discovery request, somebody just did not take out the paragraph that names a co-defendant. I can live with that. That makes more sense to me than anything else I have heard. Still, we're going to talk about it a little bit. All right, let's get to the comments. I'm also going to play another channel, a little bit of a show of theirs. You know, I don't talk about other creators, and it is extremely rare that I put another creator's content on here. Sometimes it has to be done because they have talked to key players in a case, or in the case in this one, it's called Drunk Turkey, which cracks me up, by the way. There is a lady who's been trying to get on their panel. They called her back, vetted her, because nothing's worse than when you get some unhinged chatterbox on your panel. You have seen it happen here. I'm not naming any names. Not naming any names. I've had some real crackpots grab that link. You all know it. Speaking of, don't be shy. The link is pinned, crackpot or not. I'm in one of those moods. Let's get to some comments. Let's get to it. All right. Hang on. Just Samantha, I'm so glad you're in here. She says, rumors flying on Facebook. The co-defendant is linked to what they found in his apartment is sealed. That would also be a likely theory. My problem with the co-defendant is there isn't one. And it's hard to say, in case there's a co-defendant, we're going to save on paper and put this in here now. Nothing would surprise me. Nothing. This case is what you would call an anomaly. It's crazy. Fine Art on Fire from the last show says, I'm surprised they haven't hit Brian Bushy with an aggravated armed midnight burglary charge, as that shit carries 40 to 50 years, aside from the 4 main charges. He said, I'm guessing that since the burglary led to the additional murders, that's particularly aggravated. So that could likely carry a life sentence by itself. Now, I myself am surprised. I am really surprised that they have not stacked the deck like the Eiffel Tower, the Sears Tower, Mount Everest, the Empire State Building. We have seen many indictments on this show. And very rarely are they just murder in the first or murder in the second. They have got a whole slew of felonies attached to them. So if for some reason the jury, remember there's 12 of them that have to agree, if the jury falls flat on if they prove murder or not, or what degree of murder they're trying to prove, they've got all these other felonies that can keep this person in jail for life. And he brought up one, aggravated armed burglary. I'm really surprised that it's just, and I say just tongue in cheek, that it's just 4 counts of murder and 1 burglary. All I can say is they must be really confident in what they took out of that apartment, what they're getting out of his car, whatever else they didn't put in the probable cause. And they put a lot in there, in my opinion. Tiramisu always has something to keep us on the edge of our seats. He said felonies for dinner. Crime Time is smelling what I'm stepping in. I'm ready to see the evidence they found at his apartment and the car. I have a feeling it's pretty damn damning. They had the damn thing sealed before they even arrested him. Bumblebee Tuna said, I work in a law office that defends all sorts of crime. If they don't have more than what is in the probable cause, they are in trouble. Safe to say they have more. Touch DNA is thrown out as evidence often, and pings are disputed and often proven to be another person's phone altogether. This is true. He or she is speaking the facts. Because someone's phone is pinged in a particular area, doesn't they dispute that all the time. And they convince attorneys. Yeah. They I am tongue-tied. They convince juries on the daily that pings don't matter. I think you can confuse anybody when you're paying them $12 a day and they're getting Chick-fil-A for lunch. I don't think it would be that hard. I really don't. I have a lot of faith in our system. I truly do. I'm not being naive. I do. Some juries, though. Woo-wee. Abby says, did you watch them on Dateline? The girl in the blue sweater said when she called Hunter to remind him of the study club, he said, we think Ethan is dead. How did he not know Ethan was dead? Was he in the house or not? I don't know. I watched Dateline. What did you guys watch Dateline or 2020 on Friday? I did hear her say that they were all getting together, I think around noon. They had some project, study club, something like that. And when she got a hold of Ethan, he said, we think, not Ethan. Lord, I'm losing it today. When she got a hold of Hunter, who is Ethan's brother, one of the triplets, he said, we think Ethan's dead. So I don't know if he was taking Dylan and Bethany's word for it, if he truly went in the house and was in massive denial. I don't know. I did have to take a deep gulp when I heard them say on Dateline that this scene was so horrific. It was so gruesome that they couldn't even let all the officers in. Some of the officers just had to stand outside in the cold. They were like, no way. No way. We've heard a lot in our groups, in our Discord, on this channel. I can't remember any case where they said they're not letting they're not letting all the officers in. I know some people say, oh, because they didn't want to disturb the crime scene. They know how not to disturb a crime scene. But to say on Dateline, they couldn't let everybody in because it was so bad. So bad. Then I go back to what Fine Art on Fire said. I'm surprised they haven't hit him with more charges. More charges. They must be very confident in what they have. That's all I can say about that. That's all I know. All right. So, like I said, this woman has called into another channel, Drunken Turkey, saying that there's more going on here and that all in all, the town is still really not safe. Just because they have Bushy doesn't mean all is good in the hood now. Well, it must be for some people. They must truly believe what law enforcement is telling them because Ethan Chapin's parents allowed their two surviving children, triplets, to go back to the University of Idaho. They're going back to that school. I believe Kaylee Goncalves, I believe her sibling is back in school. Don't quote me, because you know how that goes. Let's hear a little bit of what she has to say. And I did not even know about this channel till yesterday. You guys know I sit by myself in the cafeteria. I did not even know about this channel. So take it for what it's worth. These guys, stand up dudes, they didn't just throw her on there. They actually called her after she kept trying to call in.
Hello? Daniel from the Drunk Turkey Show. I know you called a couple times, so I wanted to reach out. I did call a couple of times. I just really feel it's important that anybody who's listening who's got kids over there or lives over there to know that don't just think because this guy's behind bars right now that it's all done and it's safe, because it's really not. The case is still ongoing. The investigation is still ongoing, and it's pretty active. And I have 2 kids over there. It's scary.
Okay, so she says, I have 2 kids over there, and she says the investigation is still ongoing. Now, it has been said to us, because we have to be fair here, and we have to say what the law enforcement, what the DA has said, which is just because we've arrested Bushy and put him and his eyebrows in jail doesn't mean we're done. Matter of fact, when they flashed his picture on the screen and said, this is our guy, this is who we're accusing, this is who is suspect to us, before we even saw the probable cause, they said like within an hour, they had 400 phone calls. Like 400 phone calls. Someone said there was an echo. I'll go back. I'm sorry. So we know this investigation is not over till it's over.
Kim. Hello, Kim. This is Daniel from the Drunk Turkey Show. I know you called a couple times, so I wanted to reach out. I did call a couple of times. I just really feel it's important that anybody who's listening who's got kids over there or lives over there to know that don't just think because this guy's behind bars right now that it's all done and it's safe, because it's really not. The case is still ongoing. The investigation is still ongoing, and it's pretty active. And I have 2 kids over there. It's scary. Right. Terrifying, actually. And I get they got to catch the guys, but the lack of transparency is wild. Right. And I have been told that I'm not to speak, but you know what? I'm a mom. Put me in jail, like whatever. I'm not gonna stop speaking if I don't think my kids are safe. And I honestly do not believe they're safe. And this guy, he's a monster, no doubt. I have no doubt. But there's so many other areas in this case that are just not being told, nor should they have to be. But you have to guarantee, if I call a police officer and ask if my kid is safe and they can't guarantee me that, that's a problem. And that's what's happening. Right. And they're over their heads. Yeah. 100% Moscow is over their heads. And I'll say that to them. But this guy could get off. This attorney is better than good. Yeah. If you want an attorney to get you out, she will. And so will their forensic investigator. Yeah.
Now, remember, this is her opinion right here. So when she says they're in over their heads, I don't know that she knows or realizes. I am not saying anything bad about this woman. I'm just giving my opinion. I'm certainly not saying anything about this channel, because God knows I'll get a strike. And they seem like super cool dudes. I didn't know about them until yesterday. When she says they're in over their heads. Now, it's not just the town of Moscow law enforcement and their 6 investigators. Remember, how many investigators do they have from the Idaho State Police? The FBI didn't just go away. So while this investigation is still ongoing, everybody didn't just throw the ball in the chief's lap and say, see ya. They're all still involved. They may not be there in the town, but they did not get left high and dry.
And I'm not saying he's brilliant. I don't think he is. I think he's a monster. He's an animal. But, and he did know those girls. And we have a substantial and significant, and I say this on the record, and I'm not alleging it. I'm a parent, and I've been dealing with it now for 2 years. I pay $50,000 a year for this stuff. And I'll tell you what, there is a drug problem, a significant drug problem. There's a Greek road problem. And I've got kids on Greek road, right? So I'm coming from a place of knowing, and I just want people to just have a conversation with the kids. You are not safe. Just because the guy's behind bars does not make you safe, right?
Here's the thing, it don't matter where you live.
I mean, I sent my kids to school with tasers. That's weird.
Yeah. No, I noticed your what state you were calling from, and I know that it was.
Mhm.
It looks like it was fairly close to where this
Mhm.
could have taken place. You know, you having kids that are currently, going, near there, that would be
Mhm.
scary. I would be scared, and
Mhm.
I understand where your fear comes from, and this probable cause. And I've heard this as well about the lawyer that is defending Brian, and
Mhm.
her team that has come in already, and
Yeah.
you know I'm assuming, based on the fact that because of the nature of the crime, the degree and the penalty that is involved, that the courts only had a few options as far as who can defend him, and that she was
Correct.
well aware of that early
Correct.
on, and
Mhm.
that's why she got to work right away. I mean, she stopped the cleaning, she
Mhm.
stopped a lot of things, and
Oh, she stopped quite a few things. She's already asked for all of their evidence. She wants that. She
yeah,
asked for that today,
One thing
and
out
then
there,
to have the seal.
Okay, again, super nice lady. What we have to say about that is when she says she's already asked for all their evidence, that is common. That is common. That is commonplace. It's one of the first things they do. It's a wonder it wasn't done before. Before. The defense always wants every shred of what the prosecution says. When the defense comes in, they're way behind. They're way behind. The prosecution has had since, well, let's just go ahead and say it, November 13th to work on this case. So they come in a few days after the arrest. In this case, they're almost 2 months behind. It's one of the very first things they do. There is nothing abnormal. It does not make her a more savvy lawyer because she asked for all their evidence. We would be sitting here right now going, hey, when is dumbass gonna ask them all for the discovery? When is this attorney? Did she go to night school? Did she get her degree online? When is she gonna ask for all their shit? No, it's very common. There'd be something wrong if she hadn't.
So I don't know. I kind of do know, but it's so this is over a state line. So there's no reason the feds can't get involved now
right,
because it's
exactly.
across state lines.
You're right.
And right, and I don't think, and I'll honestly be honest, because it wasn't. I don't think it was as nice. I think it was the guy who SWAT killed December 15th night.
Right. There was a incident at WSU involving
Mhm.
a guy who was threatening to cause harm, unalive, when we use that term, his
Right.
roommates, and he had to
Yes.
have been taken out by lethal means by the SWAT team. And
Correct.
I'll be honest with you. I went and looking for information on that case, and I mean,
Yeah.
I found out his name and who he was.
Mhm.
And this guy was an
Mhm.
older guy. He was in his above, I think it was like
38.
30s. Yeah, like in the upper 30s.
PTSD, right? Military PTSD.
Right.
He also was in UI Tech. He works for the University of Idaho Tech Department.
Wow. And so,
And Tech was down that night. So when they're saying they're getting pings or whatever, first of all, he'd been in the house before a plethora of times. He was an invited guest into that home before. And I do know this because, well, obviously I'm here now, and what are they going to do? My daughter, because we knew it. My daughter knew at 10 a.m. It was Parents' Weekend the weekend it occurred,
right.
and so we went to get my daughter for breakfast, and then and my son to go to breakfast and go to whatever grocery shopping or whatever before we left. And on the way home, we get this alert. It was like 5 o'clock. We come over to the other side of the mountain. Our kids are about 6 hours away, and so we came home, and we get this alert. And I called my daughter, and I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" And she's like, "Oh, I already know, Mom. I knew that this morning, like around 10." I'm like, "How did you know?" And so, anyway, as it all comes out, so as I immediately called the FBI and told them every bit of information I had been given from my daughter and her roommate for them. They weren't there, but then we found out somebody was not telling the truth. So we had call back, and other information has come out because, you know, I spend for Christmas, I pressed my kids to the wall for every bit of information they possibly could have because people didn't have children at Christmas. Like, it's beyond words. It's beyond, I can't. But at any rate, so the kids, but they think the guys behind bars now and they're good. And the fact is, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a huge problem. It's a problem on Greek Row, and it's a problem with Sigma Chi, and there are 10 student deaths at U of I since May.
Oh, wow.
That's an extraordinary amount. I don't know the count, but I will tell you that every time when we go to campus, quite a bit, you know, we watch the games or whatever and participate in our kids' lives there. And every time we've been there, there's been a violent event or a gun event or something. There's never been a time we have been on that campus when there hasn't been something that went down. That's unacceptable in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's just because they don't listen and they're ignoring it. And, you know, my son's an athlete. He chose not to go Greek, and he's actually chosen to transfer to ASU to finish out his education, which we're thrilled. My daughter's a senior, though, right? She's about to graduate with Xana's sister. I mean, these kids are connected. They're friends. And I don't know them other than I wish I never knew their names, actually, to be quite honest.
Right.
Right? I mean, but it could have been my kid.
Yeah.
You know, it could have been all of our children, and nobody's paying.
Do you think she is just upset? And I say just because her children go to school there. She said it could have been any of our kids. Now, the police said, now not the mayor, but the police said from the beginning, this is targeted and isolated. Then they reel it in and they say, hang on, we didn't say the people inside the house. We said it could be the house itself. Vet girl says, hello, vet girl, where you been, my friend? 10 deaths since November. I would for sure question that. And where's the 10 deaths? We've been hearing that the last time they had a murder in Moscow, Idaho was in 2015. And by the way, it was bad. It was a bad deal. It's in no way, shape, or form connected to this. I know some people have tried to connect it, but it's not connected. So where are these 10 deaths? And maybe it's just a warning that, hey, they might want to make this school look all you know, innocent and nothing bad happens here. And she's saying there's other stuff going on. Maybe that's the case too. What's going on, AJ? Good morning.
Hi, Grace. How are you?
You got a bad connection, hun.
Okay, hold on. Disconnected.
Carmen said you will hear a lot of rumors. Yes, it's like we said on the show yesterday about Athena Brownfield. It's a landmine out there, guys. Watch where you step, because we're not going to have any more information until June. You know what they say about idle hands. Well, idle minds are the same way. You're going to hear a lot of rumors. A lot of rumors. People are getting real feisty online. It calmed down with the arrest, and now we're getting into a different world of, they're even talking about it couldn't have been Brian. I mean, it's a lot of stuff going on. Hello, AJ.
Can you hear me?
You still have a bad connection, hun.
Oh my God. Okay, I think I'll go to my PC then. All right, I'll see you.
She's got a bad connection. But yeah, all these deaths that they're talking about need to be looked into for sure.
People are satisfied with it's okay because we said it was okay. But guess what? How can you tell me my kid is safe and that it's a targeted event, but you don't know who is the target or why? It's not. One has to make two. When it makes all these other numbers, something's not right. And I'm that mom that's just going to be a pain in the rear.
Right.
It's just, and I don't apologize for that. God gave me these children, and I plan to do my job.
No, for sure, 100%. You know, I have kids myself, and I would,
Yeah.
I
I
Right.
would.
just want to know that.
Blue has a statement. I know you can't hear him. Go ahead, Blue.
I
And
just
then
want
I'll
to know
relay it to you.
we're from
Okay.
Texas, and I don't believe our kids are safe at school either. So we're
Yeah. Yeah, Blue says we're from Texas, and we actually live very close to a recent incident that happened in Uvalde.
Oh, right.
That's literally the halfway point from where we're located to our hometown, and we drive through there quite
That is
often.
heart wrenching. I am so
Yeah,
sorry. That is just heart
my
wrenching.
little girl was actually in the town of Uvalde during the incident. She didn't attend their school.
Oh.
She was traveling, and they got stuck between traffic because they had shut down the intersection there. And so
That is terrifying.
yeah, that is, you know, we understand that to a certain extent. I mean, I couldn't understand it, you know, coming from you, but you're right. You know, the one thing that I will say that is consistent from the police and the investigators out of Moscow is that they've been trying to downplay the the danger that's associated with it. They initially called it out a isolated incident that was targeted, and that the surrounding
Right.
individuals or students and locals were safe. And clearly,
Correct.
if this is the guy, even though it may have been a targeted event in some form or fashion, then I would think and assume that you know, based on the way and the degree that it occurred, I would assume that they wouldn't be putting it out there that people were safe. You know, I would tell people to be vigilant. I would tell people, hey, you know what? There's somebody out there on the loose that committed this crime, and be safe. And you know, you also look at the fact that they didn't want to put the rewards out there. They didn't want flyers out because that would deter people going into their schools. That has been a common thought process for this situation ever since. Is that the feeling that as a parent that you guys got?
It's numbers. It's a numbers game. So these are two small towns that connected, right? They're not competitive like they don't compete against each other. They're not rivals, I guess is the verbiage I'm looking for. They're not rival state schools, but they're friendly schools. They get along with each other. A lot of the kids that went there went, you know. So, but they're numbers games. Those towns rely on our student tuition. They do. And it came all the way. And I do think the bottom line was these kids are going to pour out of here if we don't get control over the narrative. Controlling the narrative would have been to be honest, to say, we don't know what's going on. We don't know what happened. We're going to send you guys all home globally. We know how to do this. We just did COVID. We can do this. We can rally. That would have kept your numbers up. Now, kids are fleeing, like they're dropping like flies. If I get my daughter out of there, I would have. And I think they should, if they release him, my daughter doesn't have an argument with me anymore. She can pay her own tuition if she wants to stay, but she's coming home. I mean, honestly. So
Okay, I think it's safe to say, and mind you, I'm not the judge, haven't talked to the judge, don't know the judge. They're not going to release him. They're not going to release him. And I mean, I believe she just said that her daughter still goes to school there. And she said if they release him, bringing her daughter home. As far as the COVID protocol, they did remote learning. And they said, if you feel safer at home, I don't work for the school. I'm just saying what went on. I'm not alumni. I don't have kids that go there. But they did do at-home learning. They said, if you don't feel safe, we'll put our COVID protocol back into place. Some people could not do that. There are still some classes where you have to be there, as Brian would say, in your meat suit. You have to be there in person. You can't do chemistry. You can't do a chemistry experiment at home while your teacher watches you. There's some things that you have to be there in person. I'm sure this woman is freaked out. She did mention her daughter goes there. Okay, If I do you guys think that they would, this is just our opinion, guys. Do you really think they're going to release Bushy? I don't see his ass going anywhere. They just had his status hearing last week and there wasn't even a conversation. It was like, and it stands at no bail. There was no conversation. Nope. You're not going anywhere. Nope. Nope.
I think, yes, it's a numbers game. It's about money. And I actually think it's really worth a deep dive into Christchurch.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very interesting and disturbing church. Moscow's beautiful. Honestly, we prefer when we go there to stay in Moscow because it's got great restaurants. It's just got a great vibe. The hotel's so much nicer than in Pullman. Pullman's just kind of like, I don't know, agricultural corn. You know what I mean?
Right.
But Moscow's got a lot of great stuff. It's a really cool place to stay, and it's only 5 minutes away. So we prefer that. But it's a weird. There is you just got to do a deep dive into Christchurch and a really deep dive into that because they control most of the land and the properties. It's just, you have to look at it. I couldn't explain it, and I don't want to disparage other people's faith. You know, we all have our faiths, and say anything that would get anybody in trouble, but it's definitely worth a deep dive. And there's a lot. And so, I mean, honestly, one of the guys who was actually one of the men who actually was a suspect in this committed murder and got off with probation and broke his probation 3 different times, right? And then another guy who works at Mad Greek, because he doesn't work at Mad Greek, he goes to Mad Greek, and I don't know his name, but his wife worked at Mad Greek and knew the girls and had lovely things to say about the girls, but he's also on that list. And I'm not.
You're talking about the owner of the restaurant nearby, who is
not the owner, but perhaps his perhaps related to that person, maybe. And there's another kid who's possibly related to the Attorney General of the state. I mean, it's a very
small town.
Now this is getting real heavy, and I'm kind of losing her. Maybe you guys can help me a little bit because I'm sort of losing her. She's talking about this church in town, and we'll look at a little bit of it because there is a pastor that's been speaking out a lot, not about this case. This was before the murders. So we're getting really deep here with who's related to who. Somebody got off on this. I mean, let's look at what we have here. And you guys tell me what you think matters and what you think doesn't. Okay, so on the screen, this is the thumbnail. You see just a few things that they have on Bushy right now. Now, mind you, this dude is from Pennsylvania. He got to Washington State University. Some say June, some say August. August makes more sense. He just got the phone in June. We don't know when the stalking started to occur. Surviving roommate heard crying and saw killer. An eyewitness is an eyewitness is an eyewitness and has to be addressed. So just imagine if this is the first time you're hearing about this case, what would you think? Suspect's car seen leaving area at high rate of speed at 4:20 a.m. That would hone in with me. Knife cover with suspect's DNA left at the scene. That would hone in with me. Trash from suspect's family home in PA used to match DNA at scene. That would ring a bell with me. Suspect's phone traced near victim's home 12 times before the murders. That, for some reason, doesn't really get me going. That, for some reason, I mean, honestly, I can think of different areas. I was around 12 times just in the last week. If somebody there dies, they're not coming after me. But it's part of the pile, right? It's part of the pile. Hang on. Alphabet says, would you inform, hey mods, would you inform everyone that Drunk Turkey Show has this lady's audio sped up during the video we were watching? Just some context for why she seems to be speaking so rapidly. I slowed it down. So in the beginning, I didn't know it was sped up, and then I slowed it down. But yeah, everyone needs to know that. Suspect's phone traced to area of crime scene the morning after the murders. That's a big deal to me. So what on here, it can be all of it, it can be none of it, makes you think that they have the right guy? I mean, any of it, some of it? You tell me. Okay, so this is one pastor that's been speaking out in Moscow. We're not going to listen to all of it. And I'm not 100% sure this is who she's talking about, but this is a very controversial minister in the town.
Over the direction of a town.
I believe that what's happening in Moscow is a microcosm of what's happening all across the country that started here maybe 10 or 15 years earlier than what's happening across the country.
And that is?
Well, just the radical division. I don't think our nation has been this divided since 1859. It's divided and it's inflamed. And that whole process, I think, began to be visible here a decade or a decade and a half before it became radically visible in the nation as a whole.
Pastor Doug Wilson leads Christ Church in what he calls a Cold War civil war.
Our rights come to us from God and not from the government.
Fighting in, of all places, a college town. Moscow, home to University of Idaho and just 8 miles from Washington State University, exudes a live and let live vibe. One of the interesting things about Moscow is how these two entities live side by side, and I mean literally. Right behind me, that's the offices of the Christ Church, and right next door is the headquarters for the local Democratic Party. From this former art house movie theater, Wilson leads his campaign to make Moscow a Christian town.
Idaho is a very red state. Moscow was historically a very blue dot in this red state. And so consequently, the fact that we've done this has been disruptive in the minds of some, but the feasibility of evangelizing in Moscow had to do with the importance of the university and the size of the town.
So in your version of a Christian town, would there be a place for non-believers?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Would there be a place for same-sex couples?
But you mean legally?
Yes.
You mean like marriage?
Mhm.
No marriage. But there'd be same-sex couples.
No marriage, even though it's the law of the land in the United States?
Just like Roe used to be, right? In my belief system, in our doctrinal stand and what we believe the Bible teaches, homosexuality is not only a choice, but a sinful one. Yes.
It is a muscular, masculine-led vision of Christianity.
Scripture tells the man to provide, protect, and love. Scripture tells the woman to honor, help, and submit.
Expounded on his show Man Rampant.
Men are going to be dominant no matter what you do.
And articulated in his blogs. This one saying marriage is a little kingdom and the husband is a little king.
A wife should be submissive to her husband, as Paul teaches in multiple places, yes. So a wife should be submissive to her husband. But in the blog post that you just cited, I made a special point of saying that the woman exercises authority over the selection of the one that she's going to submit to.
So when you say wives should be submissive to their husbands, does this mean, why shouldn't they be equal?
Well, because God created us a certain way. So we want to fit with the design.
Former Mayor Nancy Cheney says the community has endured decades of Wilson's often incendiary ideas.
When some kind of outrageous statements were made early on about Southern slavery as it was, as a mutually affectionate relationship between master and slave, or saying that members of our LGBTQ community, trans people, should be exiled or possibly stoned, that catches our attention.
Wilson says he was misunderstood, rebutting the many controversies on his website, writing he does not believe in the death penalty for homosexual acts or that slavery was a positive good. But the visible and invisible lines being drawn here and elsewhere across the country are setting off alarm bells for many faith leaders.
Do you consider Christ Church a church?
I don't.
Really?
I really don't.
What is it then?
I see it as a dominionist cult.
Reverend Dr. Elizabeth Stevens leads the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Palouse.
In the public square, I don't see them representing Christianity. I don't see them representing the values that I find in the Bible. I see them representing patriarchy. I see them fighting the culture war.
Stevens' position in that war is visible for all to see, a stained glass rainbow chalice. Wilson fights with the printed word. A prolific author, he's written dozens of books, all distributed by his own Canon Press. It publishes more than 1,000 different titles, half of which are books and materials serving hundreds of thousands of homeschool and Christian students nationwide. Wilson laughs off the cult accusation, but the former Navy man embraces culture warrior.
You can't have a naval warfare without ships, and you can't have tank warfare without tanks. And as I tell Christians all around the country, you can't have culture war unless you have a culture. Our tagline is all of Christ for all of life. So we want to be 7-day-a-week, 24-hour Christians in everything we do. And a distinctively Christian culture is forming here, and not reclusive and not cultic, but it's distinct.
Here in
Oh, it's distinct, all right. It's distinct, all right. This is the church I believe she's talking about, and especially when they weighed in and said, this dude's been a thorn in our side for a while. Now, also, she mentioned the guy that was killed by the SWAT team. I believe this is doing what the internet does. I don't believe him and Brian were friends for many reasons. Many reasons. And like I said, buyer beware. Beware. Because we're not going to have any more breaking news until June. And in the meantime, we're going to hear a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. We also are under a disadvantage because the police, the DA, and his attorney are not allowed to tell us what is true and what is not. They can't address all these rumors. So the rumors are going to be rampant because they can't address them. There's a gag order. It's a good day to start a rumor when no one can come out and tell you it's not true. So we got to be real careful. And remember, this woman that was talking, she doesn't need to be attacked or anything like that. Her daughter goes to school there. I'm sure she's freaked out. And she is basically saying what she knows and what she thinks. Big T said, we're going to hear a lot of ignorance. We're going to hear a lot of stuff. We're going to hear a lot of stuff. Let's see if AJ reconnected, and we're going to get to some other things. This is, again, today, another reason why this is the best chat on YouTube. The best. We have over 700 people in here just listening to what she had to say and showing that clip for perspective of what she's talking about with that church. Could have become a dumpster fire without marshmallows and graham crackers in a second. Are you connected now, AJ?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, what do you think about all this? Gonna have a lot of stuff going on between now and June, aren't we?
Yes, a lot of things between June. I mean, it's a very long time. And touch DNA, I don't know about that. I mean, it looks like he's got good lawyers.
His attorney is no joke. She is not just there to go through the motions to look like he has a good defense. She
Yeah.
is 100% defending him, which she should. That is part of an American's due process.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know we've gone past this, but that lady who was talking before, I don't know, whatever, if she is the one, that's good. You know, obviously she's scared for her kids or everything. But, you know, we just talk to in this channel, don't we? So that woman, her voice sounds so familiar, even though you slowed it down.
Uh-huh. You think you've heard her before?
Yes, on Emma and Zaf Girl's channel when Kylie Rodney case was on.
Well, now we don't talk about other creators on here.
Sorry,
You can just say another channel. They may not want their name brought up. It causes a lot of problems for Brooks when other creators are brought up, because then the chat sometimes erupts going, I don't like this one. I don't like that one. That one lied. The next thing you know, these creators are coming after me going, why did you let everyone talk shit about me? I wouldn't do that to you.
Oh, God. No, sorry, I forgot. Yeah, she was on another channel, another person's channel. So if it is her, because she talks very fast, and on the other channel she was talking the same way. So that's all I have to say anyway.
Was she I lost my train of thought. I can't remember what I was going to say. How did that happen so fast? What the hell's wrong with me, AJ? It's early in the morning, too. I'm usually...
Did you get your coffee?
Yeah, I did. I had some cherry cream coffee that Sonia got me.
Has your cat been disturbing you then?
Every day, every minute. All the time.
Yeah. Probably that's why then.
So you're saying her voice sounds familiar. Other people have said that too. They're like, I can't place her voice, but I think I've heard her somewhere.
Yeah, I can place her voice because I study a lot of, like you, I do a lot of study cases, and because I don't sleep well, I'm always at night, I'm watching the YouTube, and I heard this voice on other YouTube creators. So I don't know if it's her, but she sounds familiar.
Well, now, in all fairness, these guys, they didn't just let her on panel. She was trying to call in, and they seem like stand-up dudes to me.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that they're lying. No.
No. I'm not saying that you are saying that. And they called her back, and they've made it clear that they have vetted her. So she might just have a familiar voice.
Maybe. It's just too big of a coincidence, and sometimes I don't believe in coincidences like this, because Kylie Rodney case was big.
Not as big as this.
Yeah, so, and this one is a big case, so
this is crazy.
Anyway, apart from that, I hope they have got more evidence, because
they do. They wouldn't put everything just in that one document. That's
no,
just
they won't.
No,
they won't. They won't. And you never know. It's just speculation or whatever. Probably there is somebody else, but we don't know. Maybe he's just the one. But for 4 people to be, you know what, like that, one guy, really? Wow.
I think that's kind of what has got everybody with their eyebrows that aren't bushy way up in the middle of their forehead going, how did one person get in that house, kill 4 people, get out of the house, He's
Yeah.
seen by one. Another roommate is downstairs. We don't know if she was asleep or awake. We haven't heard Bethany's account.
No.
Out the door, revisits the crime scene a few hours later. Yes, he's in jail, but we're still talking about 4 murders in roughly 20 minutes. And these murders were not a simple stab to the neck like people were arguing about in chat early on. Those people have gone away, and that's fine. But they said these murders were so horrific and so gruesome that they would not allow other officers to come into the crime scene.
Yep. I heard it was horrible.
They would not. So there was definitely something going on, big time.
I mean, because, it's because we don't know if he was trying to throw off the police or anything, but when he said, was there someone, is there someone else arrested? Something like that. I'm like, is he doing a fast one? Or is there someone else?
And it can be done. It can be done. You get the right psychopath with the right motive in his crazy ass brain. It's been done before. It's been done before.
Yep.
This is not a simple case. And some people want to make it very simple. It's just not. This is very complicated. When I saw, and I mentioned on this show many times the first few weeks, I said the fact that the FBI Behavioral Science Unit, not the whole damn unit, but a few of their agents, are still in Moscow, Idaho. They're meeting with the DA on Thanksgiving Day to go back through the house. I said, we're dealing with something different here. When they get involved, which is actually very rare, they don't come in for garden variety murder. They don't come in for crime of passion. Somebody killed somebody because of jealousy or rage or drugs. We don't need them for that. We can figure that out. But they normally come in, they do their profile, they hand them the ball, and they go back to what they do, whether it's studying Dahmer or meeting with inmates, whatever it is they do. But they pass the ball and they're out. They hung around for quite a while.
And there was another killing around there, even though they said it's not connected, but it's weird. I mean, a dog got, I don't like to say it because I love animals.
Yeah, and that's a weird thing. That's a weird thing. But then we look at it this way. I think he's a fake vegan because a real vegan wouldn't have a leather sheath. But
no, they won't.
If it's connected, he wouldn't have left the dog. And the dog was going ape shit. The dog suddenly learned to bark that night, remember?
Yep.
We had heard the dog never barks. The dog never barks.
Yeah.
The dog was barking so loud, woke Dylan up from her stupor at 4 a.m.
Yeah. And plus, the thing, because it's weird about this case, Ethan looked like a strong guy. And this bushy eyebrows guy, he just looks very thin, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doesn't look strong.
Yeah, he's no Arnold Schwarzenegger, but when you're sleeping, you're sleeping.
He's not muscles with Brussels, that's for sure.
It really is confusing when you think about it, because if the way that the judge read everything out would be in order, which is normally the way they do it in court. I don't know why Idaho would be any different. She said Madison, Kaylee, Xana, Ethan. Makes you wonder what is going on in his crazy mind that he could create such heartbreak, carnage, terror. I'm running out of adjectives. Help me out here, guys. In 20 minutes. 20 minutes.
Yep. 20 minutes. And that, for one guy, that is really fast. If it was one guy. And let's put it out here. If it was one guy, maybe Ethan and Xana wasn't supposed to be there. But they were just, collateral damage.
Michelle must not know. Michelle, Michelle said first of all, CR, thank you so much for the super sticker. Thank you for supporting the channel. Michelle said he was quiet. The entire crime was quiet, but it wasn't.
No.
If you read the probable cause,
the dog was barking.
The dog was barking. Xana was crying. There was dialogue going on. Someone said someone's here. There was definitely noise to be heard. I'm really
whimpering and everything. Yeah.
I'm really curious. So it wasn't a quiet crime scene.
No.
The next door camera picked up some of the audio of what was going on inside the house. It's horrific. It's awful.
Can it be? We're just talking here, but can a next door camera pick up a voice from next door?
100%.
I wish I had a camera. I just wanted to test it out.
They have the audio. It's part of their evidence.
Yeah.
They can't say it, and then they get to trial and say, "Hey, where's that audio you've been talking about forever and a day? We're ready to hear it." They can't go, "Oh, that's something different. We lost that." They have to be ready.
Yeah. No, I'm saying probably. I'm just saying. Probably the camera was much more closer than we think. That's what I'm saying. But yeah, it's horrific. I mean, oh my God. I just can't believe those poor, I'll call them kids because they're still kids.
They're kids to me. And here we go. Here's the comment. Thank you, Hybrid Pisces. Sheath aside, I don't think it's within the vegan profile to butcher 4 living human beings. She said, but I could be wrong. No, you're spot on. Talk about the obvious. You say you're a vegan, you couldn't hurt an animal, but you murder 4 people.
But they say his auntie said he was telling them, I don't eat from the same pots and pans as you. I need different ones. Because he's a vegan.
That's usually, a lot of vegans are that way. They're like, if there's even been meat in that skillet, I can't eat from that skillet.
Yep. It's like me. I don't eat pork, so I don't, eat from the same pan because I don't eat pork. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, that one.
It certainly is. Well, I appreciate you coming up, AJ.
Yep. No problem. Thank you for having me, Brooks.
No problem. Anytime. Just me too. She said he'd be starving in my house. I'll be like, screw, this is the pan. This is the pan. This is what I'm cooking. There's a bowl of corn over there. Go eat it. Go eat it. Okay, so we know that the experts are all weighing in. They've been weighing in since November 13th. That's good. We like hearing different opinions. We just have to remember that when the talking heads are on TV, they do not have any inside information into this case. I know a lot of people think that someone has let them look at the case and one knows more than the other. They don't. None of them are on the case. They are giving their opinion, which is a very educated opinion. And it's really good to hear. What's really interesting, and it is of no surprise, that defense attorneys are heavily weighing in on the holes in the case. We know there's way more evidence, but of course they're going to talk about it. Wolfpack, how descriptive can I be on here? Knock my socks off, my friend. You know I hate socks. So let's listen to who I say is an absolute shark. This was on a couple of nights ago, and this is Garagos talking, and we all remember Marcia Clark. They weigh in on the case.
Come out in the case and where you think it stands now, because, I remain where I was a week ago, which is, and I'm sure they're going to find more DNA, but right now, his touch DNA on the button of the knife sheath ain't going to do it. And most legal analysts, Marsha, are saying, right, but all the surveillance tapes of what appears to be his car, coming to the crime scene 12 times before the actual day of the murder, seeming to surveil them, showing up on the night in question. He was clearly seems to have been at least in the very close area between.
Now, the only expert in this case is Brian himself. Only Bushy is the expert. He knows why he planned it. He knows why that house. He knows why the order. He knows what time he got there. He's the only expert in this. All right. And he's not available to be on panel. He's not mentioned in the gag order, but he's a little tied up right now. I understand that his living conditions aren't up to par. That being said, I know nothing about all this touch DNA they keep talking about. They're saying touch DNA, if we remember the comment, let me look at my paper, from Abby. Nope, not Abby. Bumblebee Tuna, that works at a law office, and says touch DNA is thrown out all the time. All the time. So just keep that in mind when they talk about the sheath. To me, it's a big deal.
405 and 420 when the murders were committed, and then right back to Washington Pullman where he was living. I still feel like, okay, I don't like that doesn't show him walking into the apartment. That like in the cell phone tower evidence, that's not a slam dunk either.
Well, look, you put it all together, it's going to have to be one of these mosaic situations where you have the touch DNA on the knife sheath, and then you have, by the way, just the fact that that knife sheath is in the bedroom, is found where it is. I mean, the other people who live there are going to say, I've never seen that thing before. So don't forget, there's going to be that kind of really basic testimony about this doesn't belong here. So, and it's got his DNA on it. That's in itself significant, I think. But then you have on top of that, the car being found in the location and behaving in strange ways. Parked there between certain times, but also before them. The car was spotted there by surveillance cameras before the fact, for weeks before the fact, which indicates the possibility of stalking. And then you have the cell phone pings that corroborate the movements of the car. Then you have the observation by DM, the other girl who lives there, that makes it very clear the intruder is there. And also she has the one characteristic of bushy eyebrows that did go along with his appearance. And that's not the strongest thing. And I'm never a big fan of eyewitness identification cases. But when you start to put it all together, it is starting to look that way. Now, you're right. At this point, it's not a slam dunk. It looks very much like it's moving in that direction, but that's why they're continuing to investigate. And, of course, they're going to turn his apartment upside down. They're going to turn this crime scene upside down. And we're going to see a lot more in days to come.
Go ahead, Mark. What are your thoughts on
I don't
on all that?
disagree.
Even Marcia Clark is talking about his eyebrows. Boy, Dylan doesn't even realize what she got started with those damn eyebrows. But she says, I'm not a fan of eyewitness. You would think eyewitness would be, woo, that's it. Somebody saw the crime. Somebody saw the suspect. I do know that it is said in a lot of chats on News Nation, Fox, Megyn Kelly, you name it. Some of them say, oh, no, they aren't going to say too much when they have DM up on the stand. Then you have others that are going, are you kidding me? She places him at the scene, outside her door, outside of Xana's door. He's going to be the one that has the wear patterns on his shoe, and she is the key to it all because she saw him. They said she is going to be questioned up one side and down the other. They said everything that she did that night leading up to before she shut her door and locked it, they're going to pick apart. I do not envy her at all. At all. She's going to...
We're going to see a lot more in days to come.
Go ahead, Mark. What are your thoughts on
I don't
on all that?
disagree with Marcia. I think that you've got, to me, it's probable cause all day long. However, I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's so many holes in this. I can't tell you the number of murder cases that have turned out that the cell phone evidence ended up exonerating my client as opposed to showing that he was guilty.
Okay, this intrigues the hell out of me. He said, I've had cases before, and I guarantee he has, because like I said, he's a freaking shark. God, I couldn't believe when he was up there with Coffindaffer and she was agreeing with him. I was like, Coffindaffer, what side are you on? You're retired FBI. How are you agreeing with one of the biggest sharks in the pool? This dude eats them up, spits them out. He grins ear to ear, knowing that guilty people are walking free because of him. God. But I'd love to have an example because, let me see, I think it was Bumblebee Tuna was talking about cell phone pings, and they wind up working against the prosecution. Tiramisu is calling BS. He said, I think he's bluffing. I think he's bluffing. If Tiramisu said it, I co-sign that.
My client, as opposed to showing that he was guilty. As I'm sitting right here, I could be using my phone and it could be pinging onto two towers 12 miles away from each other just by virtue of the amount of traffic on one of the towers. So I've never been a fan of the cell phone triangulation. It's a good tool to try to get you there, but I've used it to show that somebody was 40 miles away at the time of the crime and exonerated them. So that's not gonna get them there. They also, the fact that the phone was not being used during the 2-hour period. I know law enforcement speculates that he turned it off. There's other explanations, like he wasn't there. So those kinds of things, you get jury instructions that say 2 reasonable alternatives. You got to pick the one that points towards innocence. They need more evidence.
Well,
And I'm
Marcia,
sure they
does
agree.
all this, yeah, I'm sure they're going to get it too. Does all the stuff we're hearing right now, like about his possible online use, like social media postings, and we don't know whether it was him, but certainly, internet sleuths and a former FBI agent has been weighing in on this repeatedly online, saying they believe they've found his presence, his postings in online chat rooms under the name Papa Roger and the name Inside Looking. One in particular stands out where this Papa Roger posted before evidence of the knife sheath was made public in that affidavit, the following: of the evidence released, the murder weapon has been consistent as a large fixed blade knife. This leads me to believe they found.
Let's take a poll, and if you know, you know. Do you think that this Papa Roger is bushy? Now, there's a lady who weighs in on all these cases. She's not an expert. She just follows Facebook groups. She said that same profile has also talked in some garage sale site for Indiana. I don't know. I haven't seen the receipts for that. Do you think Papa Roger was him? I mean, it's all the rage. That girl said, Brooks, remember Kay's dad mentioned that they would like everyone in their area to give their routers over to LE. Yeah, and so did law enforcement. They needed it all. Yes, woo. We almost have unanimous here. Except for Rexy. Rexy's not sure. Some people say no. We got a lot of yeses, though. I like what Snow says here. Snow says, meh, I don't know. There's a way for them to find out, for sure. There was a case, totally apples and oranges, but a mother had a sock account to basically bully her own daughter. I can't make sense of it. So when anybody thinks that their VPN or whatever they have going on, new email address, you name it, that they can't be found out, not true, because that woman's in trouble with the law. So they can find out if it was him. They can find out for sure if it was him.
The sheath. Again, I cannot believe this is crazy, because that does sound like it's from the killer. Talking about it being a large fixed blade knife, I think makes most of us think about, oh, they studied the wounds on the victims and they have an estimate of what committed those wounds. Whose mind goes to they found the sheath? And they have other postings by this guy that suggest it may indeed have been Brian Kohlberger. So the cops are going to know this. The DA, the cops, they're going to know whether he posted as Papa Rogers and inside looking. They're probably searching his computer, already having all that. But would that all come in?
It can. They have to establish a foundation to prove that he had the access to the computer. And it also goes to the weight. So if the computer that is in his house was the originator of these postings you're talking about, and the one that says they've probably found the sheath is very interesting. I don't know why you would go there. There are people who carry knives around that don't have sheaths. So I don't know, that is to me a very interesting possibility, but you have to remember they will, if they can trace the signal back, they can certainly say it came from this computer. What they probably will not be able to do, but you never know, maybe they can, is establish that he was definitely the one who sent the message, unless they do it through other means. For example, they have records.
I can help Marcia right here. I can help Marcia. There's always going to be the who was really using the computer defense, right? We don't know if it was Bushy. It could have been one of his friends jacking around on his computer. I can make this really easy. He's a loner. He doesn't have any friends. The friends that have come out of the woodwork have been from years ago, and they really haven't had rave reviews about him. I'm going to help right there. Marcia. You're right, Snow.
Records that show he was over here at a certain period of time, over there at a certain period of time, home at a certain period of time when no one else was there and had access to the computer. They'd have to find that kind of extraneous information to pin down the fact that he had to be the poster. But it could be done.
I got to ask you a follow-up. I got to ask you a follow-up on that, Marcia, because you came on the show not long ago. We discussed Casey Anthony and your own reporting on that case, where you took a hard look at the records, the search records, and the various search engines on the Casey Anthony computer at home, and you felt that you were able to determine it had to be Casey Anthony who made some of those incriminating online searches, because you were able to say they were done like minutes before George would have had to be at work. And apparently he showed up, we believe, on time. And you were able to conclude there's only one person who would have gone back and deleted all the incriminating searches, and you could show it was Casey Anthony. You weren't the prosecutor on this case, but you were looking at it as a legal analyst. So that is something that's admissible, and that you would take a hard look at. How can I prove the person was at home near that computer when this search was done?
Right. It would be very important. And so you have surveillance camera footage, you have other witnesses who may have seen him, you have odometers on the cars, you have all kinds of things to prove the movements of the people involved. And especially if the mother and father or the people he's living with, let's say, were at work at the time that this message was sent, and he was the only one at home, that sort of thing is what can narrow it down and actually turn it into some compelling evidence.
Mm-hmm. Mark, you wanted to weigh in.
I was just going to say, one of the ways that you do that, and I've done this in a couple of trials, is if you can show forensically that somebody accessed a particular computer and it was password protected, and they entered the password prior to logging on, and then you do a reverse engineering of the IP address, that's about as compelling a testimony as you can get to show that it was the particular person.
Did you know your internet?
And there's this from Wolfpack. It doesn't make for very good TV, though. They have his phone. They took the whole computer out. Monitor that looked like it came from a pawn shop. The tower, the keyboard, they took the whole enchilada out of his apartment. It was seen on News Nation. They didn't bring their own, set it up, and take it back out with them. They're a little more advanced than that. They don't need to worry about all that stuff. They have his shit. They have it. Before we get to our next topic of conversation and start shutting down the show, because as you know, I've got a very busy day, Kat is in chat, and it is time to tell her happy birthday, everyone. Happy birthday, Kat. say my hi from that profile and make sure filter out. That is what I did. That needs to happy birthday cat and many more. Another 29 years. All right. What friend said that was Did that fix it? Dina said, did Brooks become a robot? Underwater. Can you hear me now? Okay, Christina said yes. I do not. What happened? I can't think of a name said. Your sound is hella messed up. Well, thank goodness it got fixed. Okay, yes, I'm back. All right, happy birthday to Kat and many, many more. I don't know what the hell happened. No good deed goes unpunished. That's what happened. Trying to tell Kat happy birthday. Independent thinker said Kat broke it. All right, so this isn't from 2020. It is from 2020, but not direct from the show. I have not seen it yet. I am going to. I watched the Dateline. And it was a lot of stuff that we do know for sure. Some stuff was wrong, but that's okay. That's okay. And then there was some stuff like when you have to hear Kaylee's parents, for instance, talking about how they found out about their daughter's death. Broke my heart. When I think about Ethan's parents having to hear from their own children that their son was dead. You know, I am confused about the girl that was on there and said they were calling Hunter about the study group, and Hunter said, we think Ethan's dead. I would love to know more about that conversation. What led him to believe his brother was dead? I hope he didn't go in the house, because when they wouldn't even let trained officers in because it was such a gruesome, horrific crime scene, I just really hope he didn't go in. All right, let's check it out.
Two of these roommates have been childhood best friends, Kaylee Gonsalves and Maddie Mogan.
They did absolutely everything together. First dates, first boyfriends, graduated high school. They had their first heartbreaks together. Kaylee was 12, 13 years old. They're blasting Taylor Swift in the basement, you know, comforting each other. I have never experienced before two human beings who just understand and love each other on that kind of level.
You got one good friend, you can get through everything, and that's what they had.
To know Kaylee was to love Kaylee. Kaylee, she was like the protector. If we needed honestly anything, she would just do it. I remember I had like a professor I was having a hard time with. She's like, Katie, sit down. I'll call the dean for you. I'll draft the email. We'll figure it out. She was in everyone's corner. She was the voice for people who didn't have the voice.
If I had one or two words to describe Maddie May, it would be just an angel. She just made me proud.
One of the other roommates was a young woman named Xana Kernodle.
Snow, I love this comment. I love it because it's what a lot of us are thinking. They had their whole lives stolen from them, and there are seriously people out there, and I don't mean his defense attorney. That goes without saying. She's doing her job, giving him his due process properly. But there are people that are rooting for this guy, that are rooting for him. Shay, what a treat. Good morning.
Hi, Brooks. How are you?
I'm doing good, love. What are you doing?
I'm supposed to be working, but I'm watching your show.
Work smirk.
Work smirk. So I don't mean to be controversial, but I'm very passionate about this. So I do have to come on here and say something.
Yes.
And maybe I can educate people, but there's someone in the chat, I won't mention a name, but made a comment that Brian's ignorant, but he's not ignorant because he was a heroin addict. That has nothing to do with intelligence. This individual saying that addiction is a choice, it's willpower. I've been a vegan for over 35 years. I run 7 miles a day. I was a kickboxing instructor. Actually, I have a lot in common with Brian. That's a little nerve-wracking. But I come from a family of alcoholics and addicts. I've had 12 deaths from both sides of my family. I suffered from addiction and alcoholism. It nearly killed me, but it was a war. It was a battle. It's still a battle every day. I've been sober for quite a few years. I made a career. I make 6 figures. I'm single. I've done it all myself, and I still struggle daily. And it has nothing to do with willpower. Even in the throes of my addiction, I still ate healthy. I still worked out. I still had a career. I held it all together until eventually it all fell apart like it does. But it really has nothing to do with intelligence. And believe it or not, if you look up, most studies will say people with addiction have higher intelligence than the average population. And a lot of our most famous literary heroes, poets, actors, scientists, all have lots of problems with addiction. So I just wanted to point that out.
It's well known and well noted. And Brian is no dummy.
No.
I mean,
as a matter of fact, I was just talking with my father this weekend, and I'm sure you're aware, like most serial killers are highly intelligent. And my dad's very smart. And I was asking him, why do you think that is? I'm like, I believe in God, and I'm a softie. Like, I believe in love and all that, even though I'm single. But I just wonder if they're so intelligent. Like, I dated a true narcissist. Good Will Hunting's one of my favorite movies, and he was like Will in Good Will Hunting. He was a mathematical genius. His brain was like a computer. He was a true narcissist. He was an a-hole. But I wonder if they're so intelligent that they rationalize everything so much in their brain that they almost can't feel emotions because they rationalize things to such a point that everything is, I don't know, everything is calculated. I don't know. Why do you think that is?
Coping skill. Some people use it as a coping skill. It's an illness, and like every other illness, it comes to an end one way or another. It has to.
Mm-hmm.
And that illness could either be death or, like you say, a daily struggle.
Well, I know there's a lot of different opinions, but I'm still confused about this lady. And I watched that turkey show before this, and I was still confused. I don't know what point she's getting at, but I think without a doubt Brian is the right person for several reasons. I've read different things from locals that say they've lived there their whole lives and they have never known where King Road was. There's no reason to go there. It's not easy to find. And he was caught driving around there 12 times beforehand, the night of, the morning after, and then even after the murders, when he was out in that farmland, even locals were saying there's no reason for anyone to be out that way, and that they think that's why he turned his phone on, because he got so turned around he had to find his way back home. And all of it just, also the sheath being found there. I don't think he was framed Why would anyone do that? I mean,
no,
and
why would they pick some lonely PhD student to pin this on? They have him dead to nuts, and they've got more.
exactly. And we only know probably 10% of what they have. And just imagine if you were this PhD student out there doing your thing, you know, getting your PhD, and all of a sudden you have been framed for quadruple murder that everyone in the world is watching. Are you going to sit there in court with a smirk on your face, cockily saying to the judge, yes, yes, and this voice of like not even concerned? I mean, like I said in the comments, I'd be wiping my hair off the table because it would all be falling out all over the place because I'd be like freaking the F out. Like, come on, you don't act like that if you've been just framed for murder.
It's been said time and time again that the guilty people go to sleep and they're not concerned because they know. It's the innocent people that are beside themselves about to crawl out of their own skin.
I don't know. I'd be freaking out.
And why would you pick somebody who is basically a criminologist themselves? Why would you pick that person of all of them if you're going to frame somebody?
Not, you just couldn't. I mean, how would they get his DNA on the sheath? I mean, I'm sure that it could happen. I'm sure it could happen, but I just can't imagine someone going through all of that. And I don't know. I trust the LE. I do. And I trust the FBI even more. Maybe I'm naive too, but I follow the Lori Vallow case. And when I saw the FBI during the preliminary hearing, those men on the stand, they are so brilliant. The way they speak without any notes or anything, and they just are talking about whether it's the cell phone pings and how all that works, whether it's how they found JJ and Tylee in the ground and everything they did, and they have no notes in front of them. They're just so smart. Like, it's unbelievable how smart they are.
They know their shit, and they investigate things we've never even thought to investigate. Things we don't even think of, they bring up, and they say, and yet here's another point to prove my point.
Like, they know how if the soil looks a certain way or a certain color, like that means something, it's been moved or you know, something's buried underneath there. Like, it's just amazing. Which I hope you cover that trial too when it comes. I don't know if you've been following that. Lori Daybell and Chad Daybell.
Oh, yeah, I've been following it. Here, I have to mute Shay when I talk and then mute myself when she talks because we have a reverb going. Yeah, that case is something else. But no, you're right, because they know they're, even if it doesn't appear to us and it's not going the way that, you know, even if it doesn't look to us like they know what they're doing, if you follow something to the end, like you're talking about with Vallow and Daybell, you see what's been going on behind closed doors, behind the scenes for years. And we're going to see it in this case. It's not just what's in the probable cause. It's not just what's there. We know that. We know that. But still, like I said, it makes for good TV. You're going to have Datelines. You're going to have 48 Hours. You're going to have 2020. You're going to have News Nation. You're going to have people weighing in, picking this apart because it gets people talking. It gets them stirred up.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I said in the chat too, like, there's people that, you know, the ones saying Brian's framed or he had someone working with him. It's like they want more drama. It's like, isn't there enough drama? I mean, a quadruple murder of these poor college kids. We don't need any more drama. It's dramatic enough.
I say that every single day. Every single day on this show, I say that because, you know, they'll come in, people that aren't used to this show, and they'll come in and they usually start with wanting to, you know, talk about other creators. Did you see what this one's doing? Did you see what that one's doing? And I always say, look, we don't need all that because you can't get more dramatic. I said it in the show yesterday about Athena Brownfield. You can't get more dramatic than a missing little girl that the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation is looking for. You can't, in this case, you can't get more dramatic than 4 college kids, unprovoked, no connection to this dude, being killed in their own bedrooms. You can't get more dramatic than that. You can try, but you're not going to top what he did.
Mm-hmm. And I did see someone say something in the chat when I commented this, but I did say I am nervous about his attorney, just like who I cannot stand, Barry, Suzanne Morphew and Barry Morphew, him and his attorneys. Oh my God, talk about getting my blood boiling. But, you know, Brian's attorney apparently got a murderer off on a technicality. And because of our law system, everyone deserves a lawyer that will fight zealously for them, and everyone deserves that. But when someone's going to get a murderer off on a technicality, how did you sleep at night? And I am nervous that she's going to come up with something with Brian just to make a name for herself, and that's so wrong. Like Mr. Gonsalves, when he speaks his pain, I mean, I feel it through my phone. I feel it. And it's just wrong to do that on a technicality and then let a murderer go free. And I am nervous because of his lawyer.
Well, I think the DA is on his A game. I do. He's been hands-on since November 13th. And it's been, I just adore the DA. And those things do happen. Murder charges, they get overturned. And you know what? We want to be nervous because that crosses one thing off for an appeal. Because one of the most common appeals that murderers get is they didn't have a good enough defense. So let's look at it in a good light. If we're nervous that she can get this overturned, then right there, that's a good thing because we know he's getting a good defense. And that's what we want. Believe it or not, we don't want him to come back and walk free 6 years after a unanimous jury said he's guilty because he had a bad defense attorney.
Mm-hmm. I just, with his brain and her brain together, I'm nervous what they'll come up with, but I'll just pray that the right thing happens. But in your opinion, from what we've seen so far, do you think it's the right guy?
Yes, I do. If I didn't, I'd be telling you guys.
Yeah.
I would be saying, no, this is stupid. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I've even said there's some things in the probable cause. If I was one of 12 and I was on the jury, it wouldn't set me sailing. I wouldn't be like, he's been around the area 12 times. That's really 12 times in a day. I'll even give you 12 times in a week, but sometime between June and November, 12 times, that wouldn't seal the deal for me. Now, the sheath, damn right. What they have on that computer, I can't wait to see. And I guarantee they are still tearing his car apart. They will go through it thread by thread until they get every molecule of DNA out of that car. That would lead back to this crime scene. They don't care about his dad's crusty ass sitting in the seat, but every molecule of DNA out of that car that leads back to that crime scene. So yes, I'm confident.
And it's no smoking gun whatsoever, but look at the picture you have of him and is on your clip there of his first picture and those bushy eyebrows. I swear to God, his lawyer trimmed his eyebrows on that last court appearance. And DM said bushy eyebrows, and that's not something anyone just says. And he has some bushy ass eyebrows there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to jump down, but I just want to say I love you. I just recently found your show a few months back, and I don't miss it. If I'm on the replay crew or if I don't have meetings, I'm here for you. And I think you're the best.
You're the best. Thank you, Shay. And you keep up the fight, okay? It's a daily grind.
Thanks all. And your chat is the best also.
Absolutely, hands down.
Okay, bye guys.
Yeah, I think they're tearing that car apart. They're still doing it. Juicy Lucy said, Crusty ass. Yeah, nobody cares about his dad's ass sitting there. God. All right, so now we're on Xana. I tell you what, Xana is, and all the kids are beautiful. They're all beautiful. I hope this isn't taken the wrong way. Xana is just such a, she just had, I mean, just the videos and pictures I've seen of her, she is just such a natural beauty. I mean, I either look like I painted the whole side of a barn, or I look like Aline Warnos. You know, I've got one or two looks. Xana is just a natural beauty.
She was a junior, and she belonged to the same sorority as Madison Mogan.
I've never met someone like Xana before, ever. She opened her arms wide and let me in her life the day I met her. Her biggest joy in life was to be happy and to make others happy. Xana and Ethan were two peas in a pod. They were goofy. They both had a beautiful smile. They were both kind.
My first impression of Ethan was he's just this huge dude that you wouldn't really approach, but as soon as you really got to know him, you realized that he's like one big teddy bear. Our mutual love for country music is really what brought us together. We'd gravitate toward each other because we'd be singing these country songs. We really got along.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here.
So sad. So sad to see all those kids. So sad for the parents. You know, every day is a struggle, you know, between their friends, their activities, their teachers, their homework. Some classes they're good at, some classes they struggle with. They could be the bully. They could be getting bullied. You don't know. There is something every single day. You raise them right. You send them out of the house. They're, 18 years old. You just saw them get their high school diploma. Then you get this. I couldn't imagine being one of those parents getting that phone call. I couldn't imagine. It's awful. So I want to thank AJ for grabbing the link and coming up and talking to us. Want to thank Shay. It was her first time on panel. Thank you, Shay, for coming up. Thank you, all of you, for being in here today. I know I started pretty early. I like our early mornings. It's like we get a jump on things for the day. I love it. We're going to do more early morning chats. But you do know our regular time every morning. Don't wait on YouTube to remind you. Remember, 9 a.m. Central Time. Every morning, 9 a.m. Central Time. Mod Squad, couldn't do it without you. Kat, a very, very happy birthday to you. I'm on to my day. You guys have a great Tuesday. I'll see you back here tomorrow at 9 a.m. We're going to play some more happy birthday for Kat on the way out. Have a great one.
Happy birthday.